What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Work Knife Balance. I am beyond excited to share the knife that we've got with you. I'm beyond excited to share the knife that we've got today with you. But before we do that, if you haven't, feel free to hit the subscribe button down below. It's a great way to support our channel, and we appreciate all the support. You can also head over to Instagram and follow us at Work Knife Balance. We don't post a ton there, but it's a great way to communicate with us. Let us know what you want to see. And if you send us a knife, we'll send you back some swag as a thank you when we're done with the review for your knife or whatever you send in. So let's go ahead and dive into this. And I will say this knife is on loan to me from Steve Klur, and I very much appreciate the fact that Steve Klur is trusting me and willing to let me take a look at some of his knives. But this knife is on my list, top of the list, for knives that I want to pick up in 2024. And I was skeptical when this knife came out that it was just hype. It's definitely not hype. This thing is legit. It's really nice, and I really like it. With all of that, we are looking at the Chris Reeves Zahn. This thing is epic. Oh man. Like I said, when this came out, I thought there was just Chris Reeve fanboys loving the fact that there was a new knife made. But this is amazing. I really, really like this knife. There are a lot of things that they did good with this knife for sure. Aesthetically, it looks really nice. It's got a really sweet blade. It's got a really nice ergo to it. It feels good. It's on washers. It's American made. There's a couple different blade steels you can get, I believe. This is a MagnaCut version. It's titanium. It's got the sandblast to it. There's so many things they did right with this knife, and it's more than just the hype. It is fantastic. So we'll go ahead and start with overall measurements, then we'll do some side-by-side comparisons, and then we'll go into kind of final impressions here. But overall measurements, we're looking at 8 1/4 for the overall length, 3 1/2 for the blade length, with about 3.3 on the cutting edge there. This is the Tanto version of it. They do make a drop point version of it with kind of a harpoonish style tip to it at the end there, but this is the Tanto version, and I really, really like this version, and I'm not a big Tanto fan, so I didn't know how I would feel about it. I thought I would definitely want the drop point, but I don't. This is amazing. We'll go ahead and do some side-by-side comparisons. We'll start off with two other American-made knives. We'll go ahead and pull out the 4-inch Spartan Harzy, as well as, I just had it, where is it? Here we go. A large Sebenza. So we've got a large Sebenza in comparison to the Zahn there. You can see that the Zahn and the Sebenza are very close in size comparison. The Zahn has a little bit more on the and this is the large Sebenza and a large Zahn, obviously. The Zahn has a little bit more on the handle, but the blade is pretty much exactly the same. And then the large Harzy, the 4-inch Harzy, is a little bit bigger on the blade and bigger on the handle as well. Go ahead and pull out a couple more common knives that are going to be a little bit more everyday carry EDC size. We're going to go ahead and pull the Kaiser Veritas. We're also going to pull a Devo Mash 2.5 out here, so you can see both of those in comparison to it. The Zahn's going to be bigger. Clearly, it's a little bit bigger of a knife coming in at that 8.25-ish range there. So it's going to be a larger knife in pocket. Let's see if we can get, here's a Civivi Elementum button lock, and then we'll go ahead and pull the NAFS Lander 2 as well. So give you some really good side-by-side comparisons to a couple knives, a couple larger knives, a couple more like everyday carry EDC knives that I think most of y'all have or have held in pocket for a while. So yeah. So this is the Zahn, the Zahn. We're just going to call it the Zahn because it's a fun name to say. But first off, first impressions, I absolutely love it. It feels fantastic at hand. It looks good. There's absolutely no blade play whatsoever. You get it locked up here, both side to side and top and bottom, which I would expect nothing less from Chris Reeves. This is a MagnaCut blade between two slabs of titanium, and these things are beefy. They're big. There's no sort of milling, internal milling on this at all to kind of give you any sort of weight reduction. So you do have some weight on this knife, but it is not a heavy knife by any means. It's definitely has weight to it, but it's not like, it's not gonna help hold the pants down or anything like that if you're wearing this with gym shorts or anything like that. So yeah, you got the thumb studs to open it. You typically are going to see a slow roll as you come over the top like that. You can get a big thumb and flip it out there if you've got the action broken in, and I think Steve has done a fantastic job of breaking in this one because it's there, and there is no play on that. This thing is tight, so it's not like he loosened it to be able to get that out there. But obviously the traditional slow roll for the Chris Reeves, that's what you're looking at for this right here. You've got a really nice angle on this. You've got kind of the flat angle, a little bit of a belly to it, and then you've got a compound grind here because you have a different tip coming out the front here with that compound just right on the edge, and it feels fantastic, looks really good. I really like the ergos on this knife. The way that they kind of cut into this top to create those little grooves really fits nice, at least with my hand. I can fit 3 in here and then give myself a little bit of space and really hold the knife well. If I wanted to, I could go 2 and 2, and that feels good. And then it allows me to put my thumb right on top of that little ramp there. Gives fantastic ergos for any sort of work that I'm going to be doing, any sort of cutting down boxes, bearing in on anything like that. It's really good. The aesthetics of this knife, the milling on the show side and the clip side is just fantastic. I really love this kind of waffle pattern. At least that's what I'm calling it. You've got the 2-directional coming through, kind of creating that grenade look in the center, but having the striations finish out the end there. You do have your Made in Idaho Chris Reeves right at the top over here, and then on the kind of lock bar relief area right here, you do have the Chris Reeves logo, which is pretty cool. Just kind of shout out to all that Chris Reeves has done for American made knives, and just some really fantastic stuff. This thing feels like a beast, and it definitely uses and works like one too. One thing I thought was really cool is typically you see more of a cut to the lock bar. So you'll see a lot of times on frame locks or liner locks, you'll see kind of a cut down and chamfer like you see right here to give you access to that liner lock. One thing I've seen different with this is instead of cutting down and chamfering that edge, they actually kind of ramped it up. So they ramped up on one side instead of cutting down a ton on the other side. Normally I would say that's probably a weird choice because it's going to create a hot spot. It's going to come in on your finger on the other side. But the way that it was done, still creating this kind of anchor spot for the pointer finger right up here, and then having it, the way it rests in there in between those 2 fingers, it was done so well that it doesn't create a hot spot. It doesn't create something that's going to be kind of cumbersome and out of the ordinary, but it creates really good, really easy action for that lock bar. They've also chamfered the opposite side, so they've chamfered over here to create that ease of coming over, so when you're holding the knife, you're not going up against a flat edge, but it's almost contoured to the shape of your hand as you're closing it in. So, not almost, it is contoured to the shape of your hand as you're closing it in. So I thought that was really smart and a really way to kind of stand out in the lock bar access game, because there's not many knives that I know of that instead of cutting down on the show side to create access, on the clip side, they actually make it larger so there's the access. So there's 2 trains of thought there. You either cut down to create access or you build it up, and they chose to build it up. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. It does make it so there's really nice, easy access to it. It doesn't leave you wanting more by any means. It's definitely enough, and it gets you all that you need right there. The lock bar is dialed fantastic, and Chris Reeves does this, which I really like for the aesthetics. They put the relief on the inside. So not every company does this. A lot of companies, you'll see the relief on the outside right there. We'll go ahead and pull. Here is another one, relief on the outside right there. Let's see. Relief on the outside. So most often you're going to find relief on the outside right there, and I don't know what the difference is in the way you mill it or how you go about it, but Chris Reeves puts the relief on the inside for the Zon right here, and it makes it really nice. It just creates a little bit better aesthetic to it, and it looks really good. The clip sits fully on the lock bar, but I think there's really no problem with that at all, because you still have easy access. The clip is giving you just enough tension. It's not pushing that lock bar into an area where it's too hard to roll the knife out. It gives you really good access rolling through that. Yeah, this was really well done. I would love to see a Zon with a little bit more color, but with that being said, this is the Zon that I want. Like, this is the one that I want, and then I would love to have a second. I want to know if they're going to have a little bit more of a run on these, because these are really hard to come by. They were incredibly popular this past year and a half, and now they're hard to come by because there's not as many of them out and around. The Sebenza's been around forever, and we continue to find more Sebenzas, but I haven't seen like a second, third, fourth run on Zons yet to where these are going to be more readily available. When these came out, they were around the $500 mark. You can find them for that price still, but they typically are going to be a little bit more expensive than that because they're harder to come by and there's not as many of them floating around. So I'll put a link to Chris Reeves' website for the Zons, and then you can actually find a dealer from the website and try and get a Zon if you want for yourself. But always check Blade Binge too, because there's some really cool stuff on there, and I really love the way that, turning into a Blade Binge commercial, really love the way that Blade Binge changed things up when they went from NAF sale to Blade Binge, because you can actually search by, like, hey, I want to search by grails, and then it gives you the higher expensive knives that typically you're going to find grails, so you can sort out some of the budget stuff if you're looking for a specific grail for yourself, which is kind of cool. So yeah, there's not much left to say about this. Just really loving this knife. It's absolutely amazing. This thing is, it's a tank. It's American made. It's got Magna Cut. It's beautiful. This thing is so nice. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. Until next time, TTFN.